Hi, I'm Phil Palucha from Billionaires in Boxers, and you are about to engage with Up Level Your Communication, hosted by Maluna. Wow, this is going to be powerful. Communication is at the heart of everything that is good about business and about sharing with your fellow humans, and Maluna is phenomenal at helping you share that message and also interview some pretty special and amazing guests too. Check it out right now.
Welcome to Up Level Your Communication. I'm your host, Dr. Miluna Bausch. On this show, I will be interviewing some of the most interesting business people in the world. We'll focus on up-leveling your communication and leadership skills so that your voice can be heard and you can make an impact in the world. Welcome to Up Level Your Communication. My guest today almost lost her life in a car accident. She's going to talk a bit about that. She was born in Las Vegas, now living in central Indiana with her childhood friend turned sweetheart, husband, and 2 children. She is a massage therapist and a business podcast editor. Oh yeah, she's making a difference out there in the world. Julie shared with me that we cannot move forward and make any choices until we accept where we are and what is. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You shared with me every year you set an intention, and we'll call it a power word or an intentional word for the year. This year's word is acceptance. Would you tell us why that is and what that means to you?
Yeah, for me, acceptance ultimately means letting go of control. We can only control what we can control, right? And understanding how to stay in my own lane really has given me a newfound appreciation for acceptance.
Yeah, wow. And after the car accident and the depression that came with that, understandably, that was a real period of dark night of the soul, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like that happened back in 2013. And it was a perfect day. Like I had never, been in a serious accident before, and it was a good day. Like there should have been no reason why I totaled my vehicle. But in that moment, you think about where you are in your life, right? I was already in a not good place prior to the accident. I was very stressed out. I was very overworked, and I was very unhappy. I had hit a point in my life where I felt very ambivalent. And in that moment when I totaled my truck, it wasn't a joyful feeling of, oh, I'm so thank God I survived. I'm so glad I'm unharmed. If anything, I was like, well, crap. That would have been cool if today was the day. Because what am I really living for in this moment? Like, it's just, I'm on this rat race. I'm trying to survive. And this is just one more freaking thing I have to deal with now. A totaled vehicle. And it's so interesting because I was in my mid-20s at the time. And, I will say since then, I've faced way more difficult things, right? Like, it's so eye-opening and almost jarring how we know ahead there's better days to come, right? We hear it all the time. But how often do we sit and really think through how many more awful days we're going to have to face? But that season... Go ahead.
Yes, probably not enough. We don't know our strength or what we're learning or doing or growing into, do we?
And there's a lot of feelings that come with that. I mean, we have to deal with a lot of our own stuff in the process of accepting.
Very much so. Maybe most of our own stuff. What do you think?
It's true. And, I will say that accident shaped me into a stronger person, a more mindful person, a more intentional person. And, 10 years later, I can't imagine how much life I would have left on the table had that day been my last day.
Wow. What a beautiful framing of that. Yes. I think when major things happen to us or for us, there's always a reason, isn't there? And it is for our good, ultimately, if we can see that. Wow. That's gorgeous. Now, for me personally, I have some resistance. Okay. Some resistance to what is. We all do sometimes. And I know it doesn't serve me. I know it's a distraction and it lowers our frequency. Now, you mentioned this is your season of acceptance. And I just love those words. You've said them here again, and I love that. Teach us a little more about what does that mean to stop the resistance and go into a season of acceptance?
It's not easy. I will say that it is, something I have to consistently work on. And I'm not sure that I will ever come to a point where I'm like, I am the best accepting person you will ever meet. Like, judgment is a part of human nature, right? And that comes in the form of judgment on ourselves just as much as it does on others. And I will say that acceptance really is a hard thing to do, and to accept yourself fully as a person who you are, damaged, broken, imperfect. It's not easy.
It's not. It sounds like for you, years. And we're still doing this, aren't we? We're still working on acceptance of ourselves and what shows up in life.
And what a beautiful thing, right? That we get to do that, right? Every day we get to work on being more accepting and accepting the things around us that we can't change.
We get to do that. I love what you said. That's the difference. I don't have to do that. I get to do that. And that's a beautiful start to our day.
Oh, yeah.
Successful day, isn't it? Now, you have a place in your heart, a huge heart for women and girls. And there's a number of things you're doing, but how do you help women and girls? Give us the overview first, and then we'll go deeper into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a true passion as a mother, especially to, be able to build my own girls up, right? And to raise impactful, meaningful lives out of them, that they get to suck every bit of the joy and every bit of the wants that they get. Like, I want them to live a full life, and I want to be there cheering them on along the way. Like, it's important to me. But through that, I learned that, it's something that I can offer to anyone, right? And how cool is that to be able to lift others up around you? And that's where I became podcast host. I started United State of Women to empower other women who, are perhaps in a season where they're stuck or struggling with acceptance, right? And to be able to offer stories and, testimonies of other people who have walked those walks that you might not have realized had the similar stories or the similar feelings that you had to journey through, right? It's so easy to feel alone. But United State of Women is a show that was started just for community, right? To feel connection, to realize that you don't have to go it alone.
I love...
Go ahead.
Pardon me for interrupting, Julie. And I love the name, United States of Women. It's meaningful. It's powerful. Will you tell us how you created the name and a little bit more about how much this means to you?
Absolutely. In 2018, I was in another season of change, and I attended a community brunch here locally called United State of Women Power Brunch. It was a leadership brunch tailored to women in executive positions to just get together and sit at the table and have conversations, build connection, build relationship, understand what community looks like in a small business community. And I was in a season where I wanted to start a business. I didn't know what entrepreneurship looked like. I had my first daughter. She was going to be 3 years old that year. And I felt like I had checked all the boxes. I was married. I had the child. I've got the job. But is this where I peak? Like, is that it? So 2018, I'm like, well, what the freak do I do now, right? Like, what's next for me? So I go to this brunch and I'm so cheap. I'll say it. I didn't want to even pay a ticket. I had heard about it in 2017. I thought, I'll go, but it's waste of time. So 2018, I heard about it again. And I'm like, you know what? This is coming up again for a reason. Omens are everywhere. We want to see the sign. We see the sign, right? You've got to go to this event. You don't feel like you've made any progress in the last year. It's coming back up. There's a reason for this. The host of the event attended my church, and she was in the praise and worship team. And so I recognized her, and I thought, if I reach out to her on Facebook, maybe she'll give me a free ticket. I did. 2 weeks before the event, I said, do you need any volunteers for your event? Give me a free ticket, get me into the event, get me connected to everybody. Like, I don't know anyone at this event. I don't really know anybody besides this person that hosts it, and she doesn't really know me. So shoot my shot, right? She said I could use somebody to help open doors at my event. And I said, okay, that would be great. I would love to help do that. And she goes, but Tanya, who's in charge of registration, she also goes to my church. She'll be reaching out to you at church on Sunday for $50 for your ticket. So I still paid the money, but it was, a great event. The following year, I joined the marketing team and I pitched the idea of starting a podcast, and Kalina backed me. She invested in a full studio for us through the Chamber of Commerce building. And we learned how to podcast. We started a show, and 2020, the world shut down, and we were glad we had a podcast.
Now, for our audience, isn't that a great story? Because there was some resistance, and Julie admitted she didn't want to pay $50 for the ticket, and she was actually told no. But she went ahead because there was a reason, and she was paying attention. I love how that all came together. Maybe if we just cooperate, what do you think, with the universe multiverse?
Acceptance, right? Quit resisting it.
Stop. To resist is futile. Isn't that what we've heard in films or whatever? Stop resisting. Now, you told me a great story about a boxing ring and what happens when we feel like we failed. Would you tell us that story?
Oh, yeah. It's Brendan Burchard and Ed Milet. It was on the Ed Milet show, and he was talking to Brendan Burchard about failure, because inevitably we are going to fail, right? If we're not failing, they say you're not trying, right? And we're all here on this planet to learn and grow and try, and that's going to require sucking it up and get hit a couple times. Boxing is the analogy and metaphor that he presented in terms of failure and understanding when you get hit and you get knocked down, you have a few options, right? You can be the person who jumps right back up and is losing their balance and getting knocked back down right away. Or you can be the person who waits too long and stays down and is considered a knockout, right? And you've lost the fight. So the real sweet spot and the real trick to understanding failure is understanding you have 10 seconds. When you're down, use those 10 seconds. Take your time, collect yourself, come back harder, come back stronger, and you'll win.
And here we are on the Billionaires and Boxers podcast. Well, it's television network. I say with some humor, but I'm serious, and Billionaires in Bras. So here we are. Yes, get up before that 10 count. Get yourself back up. Stronger and more.
Yeah, you're going to get knocked down, but you don't have to stay down.
That's the thing, isn't it? We're going to fail, we're going to learn, we're going to grow, we're going to be more of who we are. Get back up. Now, you launch podcasts for business women and business owners, and you very passionately said, which I love, stop being afraid of starting a podcast. I think women are afraid of being heard, and we feel like we're not. I know I have felt like that in the past. Is it because women are afraid of being heard? Why are we afraid to start a podcast?
It's a great question, because on one hand, women feel siloed, right? We are the ones that are complaining that we're not taking up more of these executive seats. We're the ones that are complaining that we're not being sought out for our own advice and our own experience. At the same time, when it comes to talking about ourselves, there's this human nature to feel like we're being arrogant, conceited, and there's a shame that comes with that. You know, when our male counterparts do it, it's like, oh man, they're cool. They do big stuff, man. But when a girl does it, it's like, oh, that's cute. That's cute, you know, and maybe you just lower yourself, be a little more humble. It's not a good look to talk like that. So I really feel like the fear comes from that. You know, being on a podcast, you are in the light, and you have to own the fact that this is who I am, and this is my voice, and this is my platform. And if you don't like it, like, you don't have to listen to me, but somebody out there is wanting to hear this message and needs to hear this message.
Thank you for unpacking that. It's definitely a part of the dominator male model where our voices are considered secondary. And studies show that women are more interrupted, 50% more than men, by both men and women. Now, it may be even more. I'm not sure when I saw that study or have reported this. We need to speak up, don't we?
Oh, and I see it, you know, firsthand just in sales calls, right? You know, running a business, I have to talk to men and women all day long to vet them, to see if they're interested. And as I'm prospecting, it's so interesting. Men, I will share, there was a story about a man who was supposedly the best salesperson. He had a book on selling, okay? He had worked with professional golfers and taught them how to change their mindset to win golf games. And he was applying these strategies into a sales method to help organizations gain up to 300, 400% on their return on the following year. And he had big goals and big things he was doing. Okay. He just needed somebody to believe in him enough to invest in him, and somebody like me who is good-hearted that could start him a podcast to reach those people for his book, because, you know, he's living in a car and he surfs every morning at the beach, and he knows he's got a great book. He's got a great book. This method's going to change lives, but he just needs somebody like me to help launch his podcast for free to help get him there. And he was middle-aged, and I'm like, you really believe in yourself, and I appreciate how much you believe in yourself. I feel like if I was in your situation, I would not be sounding this optimistic and believing that I am that great at sales, because the reality is you don't even have a place to live.
Yes. Interesting. Very.
But then flip side, I've had a woman, you know, who worked for, it was like Ralph Lauren, and was like too afraid to ask for the salary that she was worth, and then discovered a year later that her male counterpart was making over 40% more than she was, all because he asked for it.
Key point, key phrase you just said, Julie. I love it. That leads me into another question I wanted to ask. Let's talk about that. And it's for the reasons we've already discussed. Why don't we ask for what we want? And why is it so important? And I think you're illustrating that now. If we cannot speak our own value and ask for the money we want, there's no way we'll get it, will we?
Exactly. And I think it comes back to that self-belief around, like, if I ask for too much, I'm going to come across conceited. I'm going to come across like I'm offering more than I really am. And maybe I don't deserve more, because maybe I'm not really offering what I'm really thinking I want, because clearly I don't think that I'm worth that much.
Deep-seated unworthiness, is that what we're unpacking as well?
Oh, yeah. Or even just the flip side of feeling like, you know, if you ask for too much, maybe you're coming across like a know-it-all, right? Back to the starting a podcast of, it's easy to think if we ask for what we want, we're asking for too much and that we are undeserving, right? Beyond the unworthiness, maybe there's a feeling associated with, hey, I'm not delivering the value that I think that I'm delivering, right?
It's true. It's true. So much to work through. Now, would you share with us a couple other ways, I'll say, to better advocate for ourselves? And this is for women and men. Why is it necessary that we advocate better? And be clear in our ask, so that it's more likely we'll get it. We can't receive what we can't even ask for clearly.
Exactly. Well, and I love that you bring this up in your book, right? Understanding the flip side of like people aren't mind readers. And if we aren't being clear with what we want, we can't expect to generate the results that we're looking for, right? Nobody's out there looking at you and going, oh, I know what you want today. I'm going to plan your whole day and help you out however I can. But meanwhile, it's easy on our side to be like, dang, they didn't empty the dishwasher. They didn't throw trash out. They knew my day was busy and they didn't want to help me out at all.
Our days of full schedules. I think I mentioned to you, I don't like the word busy. It's a 4-letter word. It's an excuse for people. Everyone has the same amount of time. And we can't manage time. That's an illusion. Time is a man-made thing, human-made thing. We can only manage our projects and our energy and what we're doing, yes? To stay on, as you said, stay in our lane.
You're right.
And you also volunteer with allies, and you're deeply committed to helping women who, I think only women, but maybe men as well, a small minority who have been victims of sex trafficking. How do you model acceptance, which I would imagine would be key to the girls that you mentor and help heal through the Allies program?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We, work directly with young females between 12 and 24, and it's an interesting age gap, right? You're coming to deal with young teenagers, young adults, and adolescents in general is an interesting age group to work directly with, whether they are at-risk youth or not. And acceptance really has helped me develop a newfound form of grace. It's so easy to take things personally. Like, it is. It's just human nature, okay? And I understand. I personally am always like on the hunt for like, okay, don't take it personally. But through the relationships with these girls, it's so reciprocal where they're building 18-month friendship pacts. Our mentors work directly with these girls for 18 months, and there is a lot of agreements to be made in terms of, hey, if we have decided we're going to meet twice a month, you need to honor those commitments just as much as I'm going to honor those commitments. If you are not okay with the way I'm showing up, you need to call me out on that. And if you decide that you don't want me to be your mentor anymore, we need to have a conversation about that. Understanding that there's going to be times where you might not want to talk to me, and that's okay, but you're not allowed to just disappear without us trying to come up with a solution, right? Healthy relationship modeling is really important, and especially with a trauma-based group that's quick to believe that, nobody really is there for them.
Wow. That's so powerful, Julie. Now, there must be something, I'm sure it's proven as well. I volunteer with Love Never Fails, similar in the San Francisco area based, and our restoration housing to remove young women out of the life is also an 18-month comprehensive restoration, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's fascinating that that's the same amount of time. Organization.
I believe is the data would show that it took a minimum of 12 months for a relationship to even really begin to develop enough trust. So once the 18-month mark is there, then the girls, can decide if they want to do another 18 months. And at that point, there's actual, decisions to be made around goals and planning. And we learned that if we led with that, there was too much of an agenda, right? These girls are in therapy all the time. They're in probation. They're in court. There's always somebody telling them what to do. What they really need is a friendship and somebody that's there for them unconditionally and just there to support them and listen to them.
Someone to listen to them. I think that may be the most important. Wow. I had so many thoughts, I forgot what I was going to ask around that. I love that the studies show that it takes... For those of us who haven't been through that, it takes such a period of time for them to even trust and have a courageous conversation with you, yes? So you're modeling what I call a courageous conversation. Talk to me about, has your communication changed with all of the roles? You're a mother and a wife, a business owner, all of this success and all of this hard work. Talk to me about your communication.
Yeah, well, if I take you back to, 2013 when I totaled my truck, I can tell you that, I was in a season where I was quick to write people off. I would burn a bridge. I would, delete your number. You never knew I existed. Like, I didn't care. And I was very living for the moment and very much like, if you don't like me, like, I don't need to get along with you either. So to now be in a place where people have hurt me, people have wronged me, people have betrayed me, it's gonna happen. But to know that that's not something I need to take personally, and that's not my, like, negative energy to hang on to. I don't have to go burn bridges just because somebody was a jerk. Like, it's changed. It's changed a lot. And it really has come through, through mentorship, understanding, like, we all deal with crap. And we all have good days. We all have bad days. But life is long. Like, life is freaking long. And so we've just got to learn when to pause and just exist and understand that this is just a feeling and it will pass. It's not worth doing anything that's going to further add trauma to other people's lives or create other stressors that you're going to have to deal with later. Because the reality is, as many bridges as you burn, you're going to have to face it one day eventually. So don't be, like, adding extra crap to your life, because it's gonna be piling up and it's going to be a lot of work to deal with later.
That's a great point. When we don't hold grudges, do our best to release all that, forgive ourselves and others, it's just a whole lot less energy and load. Because
and it's been nice to model that with the kids. These girls, like, they are so quick to want to be like, I don't need anybody. I'll figure it out myself. I don't care if I'm sleeping on a street and I'm getting gas station water. Like, I don't need anyone. And it's like, whoa. You think you don't need anyone because you're 18. Like, but I'm still here just checking on you, making sure you're still, like, okay in the not needing anything area.
That's such a great point. Yes. And we go through those phases. I have as well. I love that you're just showing up, and I call that a fierce love, because it's a risk. We're heart wide open, vulnerability. Dr. Brené Brown calls it wild heart. Strong back, soft front, wild heart. And you're just showing up there consistently until they trust you. How long do you find that takes? A month?
It varies. Yeah, it varies girl to girl. I will say that, our mentorship program, we model a lot of things after Dr. Brené Brown, which is so fun. We are all about clear as kind and understand the difference between empathy and sympathy. And, through that, though, our relationship with these girls, they generate differently, right? Everyone's relationship develops differently. Some people click right away. Some people don't. The girl that I matched with was initially matched with me over an hour and a half away from where I live in a residential facility. And I was told that she would be in this facility for maybe a month, 2 months, and then she would be closer to 45 minutes away from me. So, like, half the time. 6 months later, I was still driving an hour and a half to a residential facility to meet her. And I was, in at this point, but we had a close relationship. And when I say close, we were spending 2 hours together in a room the size of a closet. Like, it just had one table and 2 chairs. And so, we didn't really have anything going on. We had nothing but time to talk. We clicked really well, but that doesn't mean there weren't challenges. And it didn't mean that, these girls, they look at their mentors a certain way. And, I had a period where she, like, stopped talking to me because she had been going through some stuff and was embarrassed to talk to me about it. When you get in trouble and you have to tell your mentor why you haven't been around for a few weeks, and it's like, as a mom, I just want to be there and just, like, care for you and support you. And it's like, I'm so sorry that happened to you, but I never considered, like, how ashamed she felt to let me know what was happening because she didn't want me to be disappointed.
Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? You already had a relationship. She values you, trusts you. That's a beautiful illustration of.
And so you see it play out, you know, and you teenagers, they're very intuitive, you know, I say they got the strongest BS detector. And if you're somebody that's in it for the wrong reasons, more than likely your relationship doesn't flourish. You know, we have stories of mentors that there's a no spending policy, right? Like these relationships are transactional. So we pride ourselves on, you know, these are volunteer mentors and they're volunteering to spend their time with you. And that usually includes volunteering to not spend money, right? And so we have had situations where mentors, you know, are taking these girls out for steak and lobster. And it's like their first outing that they've ever gone out together. And it's like, well, what kind of precedent are you setting in this relationship? And then what next, right? Like, what are you going to do next time? And inevitably, those relationships don't last. You know, there are some relationships that fall out, but there's also situations where girls move out of our service area. They go on, you know, and so as many lives as we touch, you know, there's so many positive stories, but, you know, we do remember some of the ones that didn't work out too.
Good point. I also served as a mentor, and yes, it came to a point. Once in a while, I would take her out, spend a little money, and there, as she said, there are policies in place for everyone's protection. And then she got a job, and she said, well, I'd like to treat you today. And that took a little bit of time, but I said, yeah, I think that's a good idea that you contribute. And it was just a beautiful, thoughtful interaction between us. She would want to do that for me, the mentor. So that was a good thing.
I like that.
Yes. That's when you know you're getting through and changes are being made there for us as well. Yes. It forced me to grow as a person.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I say all the time is, you know, my mentee and I celebrated our 1-year anniversary in June. And so we were discussing how much growth both of us had gone through in the last year. You know, she's been through hearing, you know, me whine and complain about different things, just like I've heard her whine and complain about different things. And to see us, you know, a year later, like, gosh, we're so grown up together. You know, she'll be 17 in October. And it's like, that's so wild.
Oh my gosh. For our audience, you can see how real and approachable Julie is. And if you want to start a podcast and you know this is part of your calling, don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. And Julie, how can folks get in touch with you and connect? How do you want folks to reach out to you?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and on Instagram. You can find me at Julie Deem. And, you know, just send me a message. Like, I love to talk about podcasting. I love to learn what people's goals are too. Like, why do you want to start a podcast, right? What is the impact that you want to have in the world? I love to think about, you know, our podcasts, they've got this indefinite shelf life, and how cool to think of, from a legacy standpoint, that you have family that can, you know, in the long run, be able to check these episodes out and get to hear these messages and these little tokens of wisdom that you're leaving for the whole world, but now your family can be blessed with too.
I love it. I love it. Julie, thank you so much. Your heart for service and bettering humanity, especially women and girls, helping women find their voice. Such a gift to the world. Thank you for showing up and surviving and thriving and moving into acceptance. Yes, let us all do this.
Thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful treat.
And for our audience, thank you for being here. Don't forget to stay tuned for the next episode of Up-Level Your Communication. And we'll say bye for now. Thanks for watching. Be sure to share our show with the key leadership at your company and with your friends. If you know in your heart that you're ready to up-level your speaking, stage presence, and impact, visit milunafausch.com to schedule a complimentary call. You can also purchase my book and our podcast music, Strong Body.
Thank you for enjoying this content by Billionaires in Boxes. If you would like to be a guest or a host, be sure to get in contact with us at billionairesinboxes.com.